Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming. Welcome back to another strategy video as well. I know it's been a couple days since the last strategy video. Been very busy with the holiday stuff, but now that that is all over, I do have some time to devote to this instead of doing just the straight up commentary. So in this video that we're looking at today, we're going to be taking a look at a Protoss strategy. In this particular replay, our Protoss player here is Pommy, and the Zerg opponent is Dark Force. Right into Pommy vision though, the build that we're looking at specifically is something that we've covered fairly recently, but I did want to go over it again just because it's very strong and because there are some slight variations in this particular replay. We're going to be looking at a fast expansion and that 6-gate push. Very strong, very effective against Zerg opponents. It's just very difficult for them to deal with. Basically, as long as you can defend yourself and keep yourself safe and contained for the early stages of the game while you work on your research, your ground level 1 upgrades, and your warp gate research, if you can protect yourself then, work strong on your economy, get up those 6 warp gates, and push out once everything is all said and done, then you're going to be in a very strong position. It's going to be very, very difficult for your Zerg opponent to fend it off. And again, this has just been a solid build in the PvZ matchup, so I did want to cover it again for you guys. So what's the basic idea? What's the strategy? Well, the basic idea is we're going to be going for that fast expansion. We're going to be getting the ground level 1 upgrades for our units. And then we're also going to be getting 6 warp gates up. And once the upgrades are finished and once all of our warp gates are in, warping in a crap ton of units and pushing out against our opponent. And that's it, Viola. End of game most of the time. In most cases, this is going to be an effective push. So what do we have to worry about? We have to worry about the early game. You have to worry about pushes, 6 pools. We have to worry about that. This is where scouting comes in hand. You know, you scout your opponent. You're going to see if any sort of really early pushes are coming. If you see it, if you suspect an early push, well, then you change your plan. You change your game plan. You get the buildings you need to survive. You make sure you have that wall off complete. Try to get that first zealot out as fast as possible. Obviously, if we saw like a 10 pool coming right now, you would avoid getting this Nexus. Pommy, however, in his full scout, he knows what's going on. He knows the spawning pool's not up, so he knows he is safe to drop this expansion. Boom, expansion goes down. Again, keep in mind, if you saw a push coming, you wouldn't put this Nexus down. If you put the Nexus down and then you saw the push coming, you'd cancel the Nexus. Put out that gateway, get some zealots, you know. It's funny because we come out with these strategy videos and people say, well, what if this happened? And what if this happened? Well, are you kidding me? That's how this game plays out. StarCraft 2 is about responding to your opponent. Obviously, there is no one build. You're not going to see one strategy video on our channel that's going to win every single game. There are multiple scenarios. There are so many variables to deal with. It's all about scouting, responding to your opponent, and then having good mechanics. If you can have good mechanics and then have these general ideas in your gameplay, you're going to be a strong player. Let's talk about the basic build order, though. What did we see here from Pommy, aside from the fact that he was just supply blocked? Avoid that. Bad Pommy. We saw pretty not standard stuff as far as build order because we're going for this fast expansion. Timing that we're looking at, we saw a 9 Pylon. That was followed up by a 15 Forge. 17 was that Nexus. 17 was the first Photon Cannon here. This is going to do a good job of defending against any early Zergling scouts, anything like that. And then at 18 supply, this gateway came down. Now, as soon as this gateway is finished, you're going to see a Cybernetics drop down, and that's going to be at about 25 supply. So this is the basics of what we're looking at doing. You know, we start off, you get that expansion. You want some sort of defense here. We have that Photon Cannon that's going to do a good job again against any Zergling pushes. Cybernetics Core will be down right after that, and then another Photon Cannon. Something like a Roach Rush. Well, if there's a Photon Cannon placed right here, which there will be in just a moment, that's going to be able to reach any roaches that are going to hit you. You have to realize that there is the range differential. Range of 7 on the Photon Cannon. If there's a cannon placed right here, it's going to be able to deal with that. On top of that, if you see it coming, having something like the Zelnaga Tower is going to let you see that push coming in advance, and then you can start to chrono boost out some stalkers to help deal with that. You know, responding to your opponent, that's what this game is all about. But the general idea, what we're doing here, you can see that the Protoss ground weapons level 1 upgrades coming in right now. As soon as the Cybernetics Core is coming up, you're going to see that warp gate research get started. And this is it. This is what we're doing at the beginning of the game. Working on the economy, going to continue to produce probes here, try to get up a nice strong economy so that as soon as these upgrades are done, you're going to be able to start warping in units. Now here's a push, an early push from the opponent. So covering this back wall with the Photon Cannon, that's going to be great, very effective. Something else to realize, the variation in this particular video that I was talking about. These right here, those could be gateways. But since we have a push, we're responding, we're doing what we need to do to survive. So getting those additional Photon Cannons, you're also going to see some Sentries come out. That's going to be very, very helpful. Force Field can save you in this matchup from any early push. So having those sentries come out coupled with these photon cannons, you're going to be okay. Because we have a strong economy, you can afford that many photon cannons, and you're all set. Look at that. You can see this is exactly what I'm talking about. The roaches get anywhere close to these photon cannons, they're going to be able to start to reach them because they vastly outrange them, a range of 4 compared to a range of 7. Using that sentry now, getting that force field down, all set. Only one of these, these roaches can attack, but they're not going to be able to hit this back here as long as you can continue to force field, get some more sentries in, bringing down probes, doing what you have to do to survive. So the variation here, we would, obviously, this push would come a lot earlier than it does in this particular matchup. The reason the push came out a little bit later here is because of the fact that all these photon cannons had to go down, but that's okay. We're okay with that as long as you're surviving the push. That's all that really matters. At this point with this sentry, it's going to be accumulating energy. If he tries to push out again, another force field's going to do a pretty good job. Additional sentries coming out. So again, keep in mind right now, in a typical game, if that push didn't happen, there would be 6 gateways at this point. But since you had to put down those cannons, those weren't there, not a big deal. Just continue to keep doing what you're doing, continue to work on your game plan, still working on your economy, producing drones. He tries to push here, but again, those photon cannons going to be more than enough. Warp gate research is all done, so coming out that warp gate, and here come those additional gateways that we're talking about. Now, let's look at the timing there for everything, just real quick while we have a moment here. So that Cybernetics Core was at 25. That ground level 1 upgrades, that came out at 26 supply. 28 supply was as soon as this warp gate research was finished. As soon as the Cybernetics Core was finished, that's when the warp gate research started. And then at 30 supply plus is when you started to see those additional gateways, those 5 additional gateways, because again, we're going to be going for 6 gateways. We have that level 1 upgrade, we have that warp gate research. As soon as those are in, you're going to be able to start warping in units, and you're going to be in a very strong position. One of the biggest advantages to this push is not just the fact that it's a 6-gate push as opposed to a typical 4-gate push. It's also the fact that you have that upgrade. That upgrade is huge. It really makes the difference. It really turns the tide of the battle, essentially. So changing into warp gates, going to be pushing out at this point. Zergling's not a big deal. You've got the stalkers, sentries, you can force field, keep your units pretty safe. Yeah, not much of a problem. Again, continuing to produce probes, that's something else that you need to really make sure you're trying to always do. Keep up that production, pretty constant. Using that energy, that's going to allow you to shorten the cooldown of these warp gates, get in units a little bit faster, or get additional probes for a stronger economy. All these things are options, and you're going to be seeing that push in just a moment. So yeah, a very strong and effective push, and you can see here, even with early aggression, instead of spending those resources on getting those early gateways, you can instead spend it on those photon cannons, get what you need to survive, pulling down probes. That helped with the defense as well. I think that's something else that a lot of players don't do enough of, is using those workers to defend. If you're going to lose the game because of a push, then you might as well send up some workers to help. They do decent damage, and they also do things like surround, they block off, helping your photon cannons by keeping them safe, stuff like that. So the push is coming now. The Zerg opponent had vested so many resources in that early attack that he doesn't have a lot right now for when we push out. And even with whatever units that he may have, that our forces are just so strong with the Guardian Shield, Force Fields, and that level 1 upgrade. It's a lot for a Zerg player to handle this early in the game. We can see again that push came out at about the 11-minute mark. Typically, if it wasn't for that early attack and having to dump so many resources into these cannons, you could see this push between the 8 and the 10-minute mark, and that's where you would normally be looking to see it. So yeah, very strong, very effective push. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll go over that build order one last time before we wrap things up here. Started off with a 9 Pylon. It was followed up by 15 Forge. 17 was that Nexus here at our fast expansion. 17 supply right after that as well was that first Photon Cannon. 18 supply, you saw the Gateway. 25 supply, Cybernetics Core. 26 was that upgrade, the level 1 upgrade for the Protoss ground units. 28 supply, Warp Gate Research. And then 30 supply plus, we did see those 5 additional gateways come in. Again, those would come in earlier, but because of that Photon Cannon defense that we had to drop down, it wasn't able to afford that right as soon as we could, but typically you would see that a little bit earlier. So once again, guys, this has been Force from Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos and you like what's going on here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Opponent has what we see their army composition is. So like I said, if we pushed in and we saw a ton of roaches, we'd stop getting so many zealots and we'd just start pumping out more stalkers, seeing a lot of zerglings, maybe wanting a few more zealots, and like I said, a couple sentries as well, using those force fields to prevent surrounds. These are all things that are going to be very effective and do very well for you.